Hey, welcome to the exercise. Now we're going to do a user input exercise and flex our programming muscles. So here on the slide, we have the exercise. We're going to create a distance converter, converting kilometers to miles. So we're going to take two inputs from the user, the first name and the distance in kilometers. Then we're going to print a greeting where we greet the user by name and we show the kilometer and mile values. And 1 mile is equal to 1.609 kilometers. And then as a hint, make sure we use the correct types for calculating in print, and then remember to capitalize the name. So let's remove this and go up here, and I'll paste this as some help. Why don't you give that a shot, and I'll be back in a second to show you one way of solving this problem. All right, I'm sure you did awesomely at this task. So let's take a look at this and what we need to do. So the first thing we need to do is take two inputs from user. So that's two inputs. Let's take the first one, the name. Let's just call that name. So name gets input, enter your name. Then as the second input, we're going to get the distance in kilometers. So we'll call that distance underscore kilometers. And that's another input. And we'll say enter distance in kilometers. And then we're going to calculate the distance in miles. So we'll create a variable out of that, distance miles, which is equal to a float. So we need to convert the number that we get in the input box, because when we create an input and capture it, it's always a string. So we could convert that in the input line when we get distance kilometers, or we can do it now. So in this case, we're doing it right here. So we'll convert to a float the distance in kilometers, and then we'll divide that by 1.609. And the next step we need to do is write a print statement where we greet the user by name. So let's do a print, and we'll use an F string. So we'll say F, and then we'll say hi, and the name, and we'll capitalize that. We'll say title, and the curly brackets, exclamation point, space, open a new curly bracket for the variable that we're going to put here. So we'll use distance kilometers, close the curly bracket. The text km for kilometer is equivalent to, then we have the next variable, distance miles, close the variable, and the word miles, period. So that should work. Let's see what happens if we run it. We get an input box, enter the name, we'll say John, and we'll say 10 kilometers. So it answers, hi John, 10 kilometers is equivalent to 6.215 and a lot of decimals. So probably we might want to round that number, don't you think? So the way to round it is to go in here to distance in miles and round that number. We simply say round, parentheses, and then after the variable, put a comma, and then how many decimals we want to see. Let's say 1. And then we close the parentheses. There we go. And let's run it again. So we'll say John, and let's say 14 kilometers. Hi John, 14 kilometers is equivalent to 8.7 miles. And now we've solved that issue. Awesome. So I'll see you in the next cast.